So welcome all, including those online. We are talking today about ways to grab the audience's attention. If you can pry them away from their papers and proposals and grants and
cell phones
and teleconferences. So thank you all for coming. Let's go ahead and get started. For those of you online and for the record, I'm Christine Shupla. We're at the Lunar and Planetary Institute. There are several people with us today. We're glad you could join us. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. For those online, please do feel free to jot down things in the chat box and participate in the discussion that way. Periodically, Andy Shaner, who's with us, will be keeping an eye on that chat box and letting us know if comments or questions arise. Also with me, in addition to Andy Shaner, is Sherelle Webb, and Sherelle's going to be helping with some of our demonstrations. She's great at engaging audiences, lots of experience there. So, okay. So, I'd like you to start off by imagining that you are giving a presentation or that you are at a table, at a booth, at an event, and you're trying to get people to come join. So, at that table, booth, presentation, what might you do? On the table here, we have a, so how do you get the audience to pick you out of all the tables or all the sessions and the talks and the options that they have for that day? How do you get them to come to you to hear your talk? How do you get them to come to your table if you're one of 20 different tables? And once they've come to you, how do you keep them? How do you keep them from, okay, well, that was really nice after the first 5 seconds. How do you keep their attention? So I have on the table here, for the 4 of you, we're going to have a very small snowball. Actually, I'm going to have Sherelle and Andy participate too. You've got a little thing here that says for snowball, and the idea here is that you are going to jot down your thoughts. Don't write down your name.
It's really difficult to not recognize the people.
Snowball. Yeah, Snowball.
So how do you get the audience to pick you? The questions are on the sheet. And then after they've picked you, how do you keep them? What are your thoughts? Ms. Sherelle, I'm going to borrow this box of yours. I'm going to empty some things out of it, okay?
Okay. You just dump it.
Oh, I'm not going to dump it.
It's not going to hurt
You
it.
got nice stuff in here.
It's not going to hurt it.
And I'm going to give everyone 30 more seconds to keep thinking and writing. Just 30 more seconds. We're going to move Venus out of the line of fire. And for those of you online, please do enter things into the chat box, what your answers are to these questions. How do you get the audience to select you if you are giving a talk or if you are one of a series of tables at an event? And after they've selected you, how do you get them to stay with you? What are your ideas? Please feel free to start entering things into the chat box. And then what these folks here are going to do is they're going to snowball their answers and go through all of your answers. Andy's got the toughest snowball. He's going to demonstrate. When you're done, crumple up your paper, and let's see who can get the closest to the basket here.
Oh, no. I tried to throw an apple off. I tried to throw an apple off a mountain once, and I hit a rock in front of it.
Oh, good one.
Yeah.
That's pretty good at the end. It was irresistible.
Right.
Okay. what we're going to do here is we are going to grab other sheets. Everybody grab a snowball, hopefully not yours.
I hope.
If it is yours, we'll have to repeat.
I remember the crumble pattern. The crumble pattern. No, my goodness.
Should have done a paper.
Okay, I have many choices, huh?
So now, between your choice, between what you've got and the chat box, let's start. Did anyone enter anything on the chat box that we should hear about? You don't need to say their names. They can be anonymous as well.
They said that, so they've sometimes been in this kind of situation. They just didn't smile at first and thought, well, what do you see? Say hello and welcome, and may I show you my table?
Hello, welcome. May I show you my table or poster? May I show you what I've got? Hello and welcome. So greeting people is always good. A direct approach. Greeting people is great.
You have to hear his response.
Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at what else we've got in terms of answers. I'm going to move this microphone closer to myself. So, in addition to hello and welcome, and here's what I've got. I want you not to identify the person who wrote your snowball, but let's go around and share out what did people say. This way we're anonymous and people can share safely.
This snowball says something that catches the eye, like globes, models, or a movie on a screen, or then down at the bottom they put candy.
Yeah.
So something eye-catching, globes, candy, definitely candy, models. Okay, Sherelle, what does yours have?
Be interactive with people. Make the activity relevant to them. Give them fun facts after they have chosen me. I give them fun facts.
Okay, so relevant. Move these closer to you guys. Relevant and fun facts and fun activities. Patrick, what does yours say?
To select them, you throw a dart at them.
What?
And after they come to you, you offer them a Band-Aid and a drink.
So shoot them and then give them first aid.
There are marshmallow catapults. Like, that's a pretty good middle ground.
Marshmallow catapults can be attractive.
Only soon this week.
Attention, absolutely. Okay. Julia.
I have body language, eye contact, talking with people walking by, to be friendly and open, and then it's color, light, visuals.
Color, light visuals, being attractive in terms of approachable. Mm-hmm. So body language, I'm guessing that standing there like this doesn't really bring people to your table. What do you want? What do you want? As opposed to being approachable. Sometimes standing makes a big difference as opposed to sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jennifer's nodding vigorously that standing makes you clearly more interested.
Standing in front of the table, if that's like okay, like if you don't have to be behind it, standing in front of it.
So that way you don't seem like you've got this thing in front of you that you're guarding from people.
Or that it isolates you from the people, it sets you apart.
So not being isolated.
Yeah.
Okay. Beth, we didn't let you snowball because you were at a telecon or a meeting, but would you like to share? Do you have any ideas about what people can do to be approachable, to encourage people, to get people to come to you and to keep their attention?
I guess smile, polite.
Smile politely, absolutely. Jen, sorry.
It says bright colors, a few clean words, clean, obvious image, provocative, and teaser. So take that as you will.
Teaser, something that kind of
I'm thinking
provokes.
Candy on a fishing pole.
That works.
You can get them from far away.
And Alex, Alan, what do you have?
It's how to get the audience. It says have something eye-catching to gain their attention. And after they've chosen you, keep them engaged, interacting. Don't let them diffuse back into the crowd.
Don't let them just. Okay. So tease them with a fishing line and candy, and then tie them up. Okay. All right. So these are some interesting ideas, and a lot of really good points. Color, bright, things, displays that are attractive, that are not off-putting, that feel welcoming without feeling like you're, that don't scare people off, and but yet get their attention. Great ideas. Okay, so let's see. We've done the snowball. Let's start with the title, though. People may know that you're presenting. We announced that there's a seminar, there's a session, there's a you want people to come to your seminar, to your talk, to your public talk, to whatever it is you're doing, or it's at a conference and there's multiple choices, or we want them to come to you or to the museum or to the school or whatever it is that's going on. What would you do to make your talk attractive and to get their attention, to grab their attention and keep it?
It's got to be short.
Short. Short is good.
No jargon.
No jargon.
It depends on the audience. I mean,
Well,
if you're talking to a bunch of asteroid people, they'll all know what you're talking about.
Sure. But as soon as Ed puts deliquescence in it, he loses me. I diffuse back into the crowd.
Diffuse back into the crowd or out the door.
Yeah, out the door.
Okay. Good point. Okay. Okay. So not too jargony.
Maybe some puns if
Puns?
if it's appropriate.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it isn't, I guess.
Puns can be appropriate, can be fun. Absolutely.
Maybe the title is a question that is maybe that some people might think they know the answer, but it's not the answer they're thinking it is. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Something.
Or is that too
I
subtle?
don't like ones that start off with a question. It's just a personal thing because it sort of makes me think that we're going to get to the end of the talk and we'll still have the question. Or have answered anything.
Sometimes.
Want answers.
Okay. All right.
The answer's always
certain
no.
words you can
Answers always
use.
no.
Say that again.
There's
like
certain
that.
words you can use. People don't want to come and listen to a report. They want to hear about an application or an exploration. Like they want to know, how is this going to help my research? If you're doing an academic presentation, and if you're doing something more for a mainstream audience, they want to know, what cool thing am I going to, like, what cool adventure am I going to go on?
An adventure, something cool, something provocative. Earlier somebody said it should provoke. So great points. So you might want to include action words. Impact, have impact. Verbs are good for the public. Maybe for some science talks, maybe not for others. You might want to focus on some intriguing concepts, things that might grab their attention. Provoke the curiosity, maybe with a question, maybe not.
Different styles.
Keep them short. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to mislead them with the title where you're going to get somebody irritated or angry. Focus on a question on one thing and then the topic is something completely different. So
That was in today's news.
today's news, scientists say a platinum meteorite. Scientists say a platinum meteorite hit Africa 12,800 years ago. That was the title.
Yeah.
Misleading title. Now below it, under the description, it says scientists now have evidence that a platinum dense meteorite. So it's a meteorite as dense as platinum, but it has nothing to do with platinum. It was very misleading.
Yeah.
And
So-
to confuse people.
In today's world, no clickbait.
That's clickbait.
Clickbait can be irritating. So, does anyone have like a favorite title of a talk or of a presentation that they really liked, that you thought was particularly awesome that you wanted to share? ones with puns, whatever.
I'm really bad with titles.
There was a biology one that went around the internet 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember it now. It was like, no, it was from the like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, like the new. It was Fantastic Yeasts and Where to Find Them. That made me really happy because it was an actual like peer-reviewed published article.
Awesome. That's very nice. Yeah. So puns are great. Things that play off of current popular titles, or things that play off of current popular topics. Absolutely.
That's nice.
Several of you commented that visuals are important, something colorful, something eye-catching, something attractive. And so there might be some different visuals, whether they're displays or props, something that you could bring for your table, for your presentation, for your activity, for whatever you're doing to catch people's attention as they're walking by. Now the visual of giant bars of chocolate might help, but in addition to that, there might be things like globes, like meteorites. And you all may not know that LPI, those of you here at LPI might not know that LPI does have some meteorites that you can use for engaging public audiences. These are the ones we're going to take on Saturday. There's 3 meteorites in here, and then the meteorites are in bags, except one of the bags is broken, and we'll fix that. And then there's several meteor-rongs in here.
You have a hand lens that we can use?
We have lots of hand lenses in education, so let's bring those, let's add those to the list. I will let these start to circulate here so you all can take a look at them. Alan knows exactly what's in them because he put them together. And so you're looking for them.
But it's not my meteor.
Is there any platinum?
It's my meteor.
Platinum.
Yeah, are any of them made out of platinum?
It's a steal.
Things like a telescope, even if you're not actually going to use it, it could attract attention.
Iron is not a
And if it's during the daytime, and if you're doing something related to the sun as space science, we could project the sun onto something and let them actually see the sun, as long as you are constantly monitoring it so nobody tries to stick their eyeball in front of the lens.
You get 2 looks.
So there's Earth analogs. We have here at LPI, and those of you who aren't here at LPI, if you're in Houston and you are doing a public outreach or public engagement and you want to borrow some of our materials, please contact me. If you are far away, these are things that you might want to have 1 or 2 of. We have some volcanic breccias when we're talking about impact breccias. We have, courtesy of Alan, a lot of anorthosite. We're talking about the moon. We have lots and lots of pieces of basalt. We're talking about everything else. We have some hematite. We're talking about Mars. We also have some specular hematite. And I'm not going to take the time to open the bags myself. I'm going to pass them around and let you guys do it. So. Be careful with the hematite. They will turn your fingers very, very red, especially if you're wearing white. You might want to do something with a scale model, either as a visual or a demonstration. So for instance, if the Earth were a basketball, then the moon would be a tennis ball, and it would be about 21, 22, 23 feet apart, depending on exactly the size of the basketball, depending on whether it's the high school size or the college size or the pro size. Anyway, and depending on whether the moon's at its closest or farthest point in its orbit, or the average. So scale models are good, and we do have.
That's what you're doing. Ellen got brainwashed in Russia.
Be careful with the red paint. Or streaks there. Yeah, both. Here at LPI, I think most of you, if not all of you, have seen our giant inflatable moon. I don't know, Jennifer, have you seen it? We have an inflatable moon that's as tall as a person on a stand.
Please say someone's done an Indiana Jones. please.
We do not have an Indiana Jones costume, but if for any reason it ever comes up, we do have a squirrel costume.
That's Andy's.
This was for a project that has since ended. But if anyone ever has need of a squirrel costume, Andy actually walked around at LPSC in this interviewing scientist one year. Recording, we still have those. So if anyone has a need for a squirrel costume for some reason, we don't have the whole costume, not just the head, but it does get quite warm. So, anyway, and initially when we were setting up for today, Sherelle left it on the table as a prop, and I thought that looked really creepy. So
That would certainly get people's attention. I don't know if it would keep them.
Maybe
it would get people's attention. It absolutely would. If you wanted to, maybe we need to add like a helmet or something to the squirrel's costume.
For the astronaut.
Oh,
It would be like
that'd be good.
the squirrel on SpongeBob.
If we make
It's absurd enough as it is.
Why is squirrel?
Let's add a suit.
I'll tell you, so it's a long story.
You know, on Halloween this year, we're having the Aries LPI Science Mini Symposium.
Oh, nice.
So maybe we can get the moderator
To dress up as a squirrel.
Yeah.
Who's the moderator?
We haven't decided.
You can get Lindsay Keller to do it. You think?
Will he even show up?
No. It would be quite hot. But, anyway. Okay. So, in addition to the things that we've mentioned, are there other props that you would think about having, either at a table or at a talk? Other props that you would want to bring if you're sharing your science? And this goes for the people on chat as well. If people on chat, please let us know what sorts of props might you include outside of the ones we just discussed if you're giving a presentation or at a table.
Well, it fits in the scale models, but what I found at conferences would always is really eye-catcher is models of rovers or rockets or things like that.
Models of rovers?
People usually crowd around this.
Absolutely. Models of rovers and rockets can be very eye-catching.
Like Lego models and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, awesome. Great ideas. Perfect.
I was thinking, even when we were at a Houston museum, and our scales, our actual scales, the moon scale, that was a detraction as well, because people were very surprised how much they will weigh on various planets.
Here at LPI, we have these scales that we've altered the numbers on, so you can see what you would weigh if you were standing on Jupiter or Mars or the moon or the Earth in pounds. It's not available in kilograms right now. And for those of you who are with us virtually, if anybody wanted to create your own, it's very easy to do, and I can tell you how. Just contact me. So, okay. Any comments online from the chat box about? Nope. Okay.
Just now, monitors with videos.
Monitors with videos, having a big video and showing videos or showing something interactive, something pretty cool.
I think Andy's idea when we wanted the monitor with the microscope.
Yeah, that's good.
So
Yeah.
Microscope, something showing things up close. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, microscopes and hand lenses are great, but some people just don't get it right off. So having a monitor really helps.
magnifies.
Yeah.
Very nice.
They also suggest maps.
Maps, absolutely. Something like a good MOLA map of Mars. Something nice and big and visual. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Other visuals, other signs. There's exhibits. We have some pop-up exhibits. There's displays. Sherelle, can you make sure everybody gets one of these? This is a list of some of the resources that we have here at LPI. And the list that Sherelle is handing out, there's a file actually on our website with some of this information as well. Under getting the audience's attention from last year. But we have, in addition to things like the giant moon globe, we have pop-up exhibits that people can borrow for the cost of shipping. We have posters here that people can take with them. We've already talked about some of these things, like the telescopes. We have planetariums too, a Star Lab that people can borrow and take someplace, or the new digital one that we can go with them to. And then, of course, there's the AR app that LPI created, but there's lots of other apps. There's the solar system treks, Mars treks, moon treks, things like that you can use as an interactive activity or display. So all these different things, and of course there's 3D images and 3D videos and the little 3D glasses that you can use with them to get people's attention.
Do we have a 3D printer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Right on.
Right.
Okay.
So we have a 3D printer now, courtesy
And
of the Pi Lab.
You can,
Have to pay it.
you can also, at least for us here locally, you can print 3D files over at the Freeman Library. And it's really not that expensive, but you do have to pay for the cost of the material.
And there's a lot of libraries around the country, here in the US at least, that have 3D printers. So for those of you not here, again, you might want to check out your local library and see if they have a 3D printer if you want to create an asteroid or something. So anyway, let's go ahead and continue. Sound doesn't get thought of often, but sound is a way to capture people's attention. Whether that's using a microphone and your voice and attenuating it, so sometimes you're quiet and sometimes you're louder, music, but also sound effects. There's all sorts of different things you can do. And this played earlier. Honestly, it did. But it doesn't want to now. I'm so sorry about that.
You can hear
It's
it.
just super
It's
quiet.
really quiet.
Okay, it was very quiet. It was louder earlier. So.
Is that a sound effect, Alan?
It's a runny nose.
Sorry. But yeah, sound is an important way to get people's attention that we don't think of often. So whether it's a presentation or whether it's at a booth or it's an activity, ways that you can incorporate sound will attract a variety of people in ways that you hadn't thought of before. One thing, in a presentation, periodically, you can get them to clap their hands when they're pointing at something, or if they got the question right, or whatever it is. Something that gives them a role and lets them make noise for a short period of time before you continue. So anyway, demonstrations. Here's the fun part. Okay, so there's lots of demonstrations that you can do, of course, for a variety of different science topics. For planetary science, some of the ones that we've come up with. The first one over here, Sherelle has started to set up. Sherelle, can you come on over, and can I have the rest of you?
Actually, I was gonna actually see if the scientists would like to, since Beth knows it, but I can join in, but I want them to do it.
Yeah, but they should come over here so they can see. I'm gonna see if I can switch the camera, so that way.
Grab your navigation system.
Yay.
Grab your navigation system and grab your robot. Just take the robot on top. Yeah, so you know what to click. Yeah. Come over here and grab your navigation system and a robot. Then you know you can. Actually, I already did for it. So that's there you go. Go ahead.
I don't think I can change the video camera without changing everything. Can you do me a favor? Can one of you bring your little robot over so they can hold it up so that you're in the view, that you can see what they can see. So you're holding a tablet and a little Sphero robot. Here.
So you put your robot on the floor.
They're just not going to be able to see the floor.
Yeah. No. And you navigate your.
Thank you, Amy.
You navigate your Sphero, the blue dot that's to the right, to the left hand side.
I need to hold it upside down. He's gonna share the video. I'm just gonna
like this. There you go. You would get a point for visiting the crater here.
Let's try it out.
So Sherelle, what do each of these things represent again? Can you remind everybody what these
Yes, so the brown ovals there are craters, and these represent the of the surface of Mars. So here you are on the surface of Mars, and you are navigating through an obstacle course to make a soil deposit. The soil deposits are actually the wooden blocks that are at the end of the obstacle course. And if you push one of the wooden blocks past the green line, then you have officially made a soil deposit into the dry.
Oh, there you go.
I'm still
Dry.
really figuring out.
So
So
you
now I'm
need to
going
put the
up and I'm going this way.
Or
Okay.
what color are you?
Look the other way, then it goes in the direction that's more intuitive.
There you go.
Yeah, kind of.
And so, and actually, when we had this as a game at the Pasadena Public Library, each obstacle that the cup, if you went inside the cup, you received a point. If you visited a crater, you received a 1 point. And if you went inside of a cup, you received a 1 point. So at the end, whoever had the most points, wins. Patrick, is that you with the yellow block? All right, so Patrick already has 6 points, y'all.
And so the,
They're all working with the same team.
Oh, they are. Oh, okay.
No, it is not really.
If you flip the screen upside down, I think it's more intuitive.
What I didn't show you is how to calibrate it with this. I want you to figure it. Yeah.
Oh, you can calibrate them?
Yes, you can. There you go, Ben. You know what that means? Maybe if I do this one, and you can get back up on them because the edge allow you to get on.
so as Cheryl was saying, one way we've done this is as a model for the Mars 2020 rover, going and collecting soil samples and then maneuvering them someplace for the future. And then the way that she used them this past Saturday for INOM was we put a giant moon map on the floor, and they needed to move their robots to the Apollo landing sites. And if they got all the Apollo landing sites, they got a NASA sticker. So,
I can't see my vehicle.
Yeah.
So they broke my this other option.
Wherever you are.
It was about 4, Allie.
so anyway, I'm going to give you 30 more seconds to play.
Okay, Allie. All right.
So far, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 soil deposits have been put in the repository for future collection.
I think we're just learning that you need to get a lot of speed to move the object.
Yeah.
There we go.
What happened to the green one?
The green one.
It's just not moving where I want it to. It's like now I'm moving it actually to the left, and it's not going to the left.
Kenji, before you unattach your phone, do you want to take that phone outside for the next one?
Okay.
I'm going to give you 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay. So maybe we'll let you continue to play with this after the seminar is over. They belong to Sherelle. They came to LPI with Sherelle. So she brought a number of technology toys and tools with her that she was using in the classroom before she got here. And this is one way that she has found to successfully engage students. And so the idea here is that there's ways to use the little robots and think about them in terms of how they might work for engaging audiences. We've come up with a couple of ideas, but we're happy to hear more of your ideas And those of you online, these particular ones are called Heroes, but there's a few different brands out there that potentially people could use to engage audiences. And were you engaged?
Yeah.
You kept your attention. We'll be bringing some of these with us to Rice on Saturday as well. Okay. So, Diet Coke and Mentos. How many of you have seen before Diet Coke and Mentos? Everybody here has. Andy, can you ask the same question? Those of you online, how many of you have seen the Diet Coke and Mentos explosions?
You do it right here?
I was going to say outside the window here.
Try to get us in
What are
trouble.
the answers?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
For those of you online, if you have participated in the Diet Coke and Mentos explosions before, let us know.
So a couple of times, never though at conferences.
Never at conferences.
Yeah, no, it's not a good idea.
Well,
Yeah.
we should change that.
Maybe not at a conference unless the
Do it during our rock and mineral show
section.
in Virginia.
But yeah, Sherelle,
Outside. But
would you mind taking these outside? Do you guys want to go outside with her, or do we want to watch her from inside the window?
I'm going outside.
You're going outside. Okay. And go ahead and take the phone, and that way they can see what's going on outside. I'm going to stay in here so I can talk through what's going on a little bit. I'll let you guys handle this, and be right back.
Can you then explain why it works?
I believe it's a chemical interaction between the texture of the menthos. The texture of the menthos allows for a lot of nooks and crannies for the soda to interact with it.
So why is it diet soda?
That I think the reason that diet soda is preferred is simply so that it's not as sticky in terms of the mess. I don't think I don't know if
It's not.
it's not as effective with regular Coke.
I thought it was specifically the diet that it worked with, but I don't know why.
I don't know. We'll have to find out. That's a good question.
Also, if we go outside, we can do supernova.
Oh yes, I love supernova. It's a cool activity. Although I've usually done it with a ping pong ball. Have you ever actually done it with a basketball? Tennis ball?
What do we want to bring?
That's not bad. I've done
Yeah, maybe
tennis
better
balls
with
and
a
ping pong balls. That's usually what I've done. But yeah, cool.
Stuff going up, stuff going up.
So they're outside, as you can see the video, Andy's video there, and they're getting ready for the first one. Let's see how many she can get at once. Okay, that one only had a few. Let's see how many, if she can get like 5 or 6 in there. Let's see if she can get 5 or 6 in her hand and then drop them in all at once. Not quite as huge as what we normally see, but still fun. Still a lot of fun. Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
saw us?
I did. I saw you. I saw you. And Andy's video showed great.
Okay.
So
I think I've seen, yes, I think I've seen that.
And just like
Yeah.
destroy their prey with like a sonic wave.
sometimes you can buy these little plastic tubes with a lever at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I think we have one someplace. I've got a plastic tube that doesn't have the lever where you just put it in and you drop them. But the technique I've seen the most often is just try to hold in your hand as many as you can, like 5,
Yeah.
and drop them in.
Yeah.
In order. Okay. So yeah, that's a demonstration. Last year when we did this, one of our scientists, Katie, did a demonstration with dry ice in a pipette where she squeezed it and it made a little explosion. She put the dry ice inside of the pipette and there's water involved, and the directions are available as well on the back of the sheet that we've given you in terms of resources. It's the dry ice melting demonstration. Pipette and pliers, you seal off the dry ice inside of the pipette. So eventually, as it expands with the carbon dioxide, it kind of bursts. Usually underwater to kind of make an eruption. But anyway, so volcanic eruptions, we've got some things. Of course, most people have seen or heard of the crater impact demonstrations. I toyed with the idea of doing water balloons today for you guys. Water balloon impacts, where you measure the size of the water balloon and you measure the size of the splat outside on the concrete, and you take the ratio and talk about how the impactor is destroyed and the size of the resulting crater. Anyway, so those are some demonstrations, and of course, as we mentioned, you could weigh yourself on different planets, you could use models. Are there other demonstrations that any of you here in the room or online have done before that you would recommend related to your science in any way?
Well, we have used the radar gun.
The radar gun, yes. Ed bought a radar gun and use it to measure speeds of things as a fun demonstration. We tried it with balls, having them throw balls at bouncing off the walls and measuring the speed of the tennis ball, I think it was.
Yeah.
We had to take a bigger ball. It was a basketball.
Oh, it was a basketball. The tennis ball was too small.
Was too small. Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't pick it up.
Okay.
And didn't it only work if it was traveling parallel
Yes.
to the gun?
Yeah. Okay. So radar gun. Oh, we have now an infrared camera that we've used for some activities to measure temperatures of different things. A little one, and they can be purchased for like $100 to $200. They connect to tablets and cell phones, and you can use them to talk about different temperatures as well as how infrared sees different things. So it's a pretty cool demonstration. Anybody have any other demonstration ideas? What they'd like to see done or what you have done?
A long time ago, we did I can't remember what the event, but the theme was, but we had gotten a tour of liquid nitrogen.
Oh.
And we did demos in the lecture hall with freezing things and breaking things.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
And then we made ice cream afterwards.
The ice cream wasn't for the public, it was for us. That was pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty cool. Anyway, let's go on to the next subject. So come on. There we go. Okay, one other thing that you can do to not get the audience's attention and to keep it is to make it relevant to them.
Yes.
Connect to their interests, to their culture, to what's in the news. So some things that connect to a lot of audiences, anything having to do with impacts and dinosaurs dying and us dying. A lot of people are very interested in anything having to do with volcanoes, especially super eruptions or things like that. A lot of people are interested in what's in the news right now. So if it's something that is in the news right now, something that they can see in the sky. If you're talking to a group of amateur astronomers, if there's any connection between what they can see with their telescopes and what you're talking about, make it. If no matter who you're talking to, except maybe for kids, if you can connect it to the current news of the day, the pun about the movie, things like that. So what's currently out there, and then connecting it to our planet. For planetary science, if we can connect it back to our Earth, whether it's our safety here on Earth or how we understand things here on Earth or the history of the Earth or the future of the Earth, those are all good connections too. What other ideas do you have about how to make your presentation, I'm going to close the doors, relevant?
I think that like what you were saying with the news, or if we're talking about the weather and how does things of planetary science affect the weather that we may be having, or past experiences like Katrina, or of course, it all depends on the audience that you're trying to reach. But if you know that they've experienced it in their lifetime, something that is in their lifetime would make it more relevant, because then they can have a connection that way.
So connecting the Great Red Spot on Jupiter to hurricanes, for those of us here in Houston, would be appropriate. Connecting the InSight mission on Mars and how they're studying what's inside of Mars to earthquakes, especially for people in California who experience earthquakes on a regular basis, might be a way to connect to them.
Just in terms of like the size and the scale of things we do, because most people don't think in deep time, they don't think on kind of solar system length scales. And if you can just say, you know, this object is the equivalent of this many on Earth. For example, if you tell someone there's 10 to the 28 kilograms of water in the ocean, who cares? But if you tell them that it's 1.4 quadrillion bottles of Red Bull, suddenly everyone, yes, I've done the calculation because I had 60 undergrads that wouldn't pay attention otherwise.
Wow.
So things like that, so we're like,
Wow. Yeah.
And so taking quantities and making them approachable, and kind of funny too, like it's humorous. And they like the humor.
Humor is always awesome, as long as it doesn't completely distract them from what you're trying to point out. Absolutely. Humor is very, very effective. And making it, you know, quantities relevant. Absolutely. There's 1,000 Earths inside of Jupiter, 1,000 Jupiters inside of the sun, as opposed to how massive the sun is or how massive Jupiter is. You would weigh 1/3 on Mars of what you weigh here on Earth, to kind of give them an idea about Mars versus Earth.
During Harvey, I did some quick calculations to figure out like how much water fell, because they would tell you like how many gallons had fallen over how many hours. So I did some quick calculations and then share it on Facebook for people back home so they could understand how much water that is. And one comparison I made was how long it would take that much water to flow through the Arkansas River where it goes through Wichita. And it was something like a couple of 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So connecting to where you are, to the people there, to their features geologically, to things in their city, to, you know, or the country. I've been telling kids that Olympus Mons is maybe about half the size of Texas. We know it's the size of Arizona. We figured, so that seems to impress, because they don't know how big Arizona is necessarily, but they know how big Texas is. So
They do?
they have some idea. They know that it takes them 2 days to drive through it.
That's true.
They know how long it takes to drive through it.
It's not Europe.
I was about to say, I was thinking about it, you can fit 4 Frances in it. That's the map I show.
So how many countries will fit in it? Yeah. So
How much of Europe does it cover?
So yeah, making things relevant in terms of size, so these are all different things, and it's the last handout I have for all of you here, and then online, this handout is also available on the same Scientist Engagement website. It's techniques for engaging audiences. one thing that connects to the relevance, you are relevant to them. If you are standing in front of somebody, you are relevant to that person. If you make whatever it is, your talk, your display, what you're sharing, if you make it personal, it will be relevant to them. If you make your story personal, not inappropriately personal, and not at a science conference, but if you make what you're sharing personal, if you share a little bit about yourself in the process of telling them the story that you're telling them, it will be relevant to them because they are there in front of you. You are a person in front of them that they are seeing, that they are meeting, that they are talking with. So that will make it relevant. So just a couple final notes. I would like each of you, we've got some papers on the table if you want to grab something, or you don't have to if you don't want to, but I want you to think for about 2 minutes about how you might incorporate any of the things we've talked about today in something you might do in the next year or two.